Hey everybody, welcome to the Miniac. Welcome to what I'm now calling Q&A Tuesday. Sorry, not Q&A Tuesday, Q&A Wednesday. Anyway, you might be wondering what the green screen is behind me. That's because my plan is to screen record the entire thing as I'm doing it and then go back through and cut out the best questions and create a video of that, kind of a recap that'll be posted on Thursday or Tuesday, sometime next week basically, so that whoever wants to come back and watch the live streams doesn't have to go back through the entire live stream and watch it as it's going on. They could go through and watch this recap of the best questions. Now, basically, the way this is going to be going is it's a Q&A thing, so you can come to me about anything Mini related, Miniac related, questions about your own car, questions about BMW if you want to, questions about Mini. You get the deal. It's a Q&A kind of thing, so it's kind of just something fun, something to do, and I think it'll be a neat thing to do for the channel. I'm hoping to kind of test this out over the next month or so, see how it goes. If it turns out it's really, really popular, I'll keep doing it. If it turns out it's not that popular, I'll stop. But the idea is just to kind of just see how fun this could be to do this kind of thing. Now, unfortunately, I have a feeling that when I go to edit this video with this green screen, my blue shirt is going to disappear into the background behind me here. But the idea is that when I go to edit these things later, I can actually add in backgrounds and pictures and stuff like that so that it isn't just me talking to the camera. The recaps will be people, you can actually see what I'm talking about when I discuss stuff with you. Anyway, I want to thank Shubham for the picture of his car. That thumbnail that's at the beginning of the video, that's his white silver John Cooper Works Mini. Pretty cool looking car. And he parked it next to an F-150 Raptor, which is kind of an interesting comparison of the two cars. This gigantic thing with this little Mini next to it, so that's kind of fun. But also, if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you are looking for a discount code for my favorite company, outmotoring.com, it is Miniac5, and they'll give you 5% off on your order. And they ship orders for free or free shipping above $195, so that's a good deal. Motoringfile. Bear with me here. Motoringstripes.com. If you use code Miniac, you'll get 5% off on your order as well. So I got a few discount codes here and there. You never know what I might have. But anyway, it looks like we got Phil James in here. I have a 2005 Mini Cooper S convertible, and he loves it. Awesome. Manny's in here. I haven't seen Manny in a very long time. He used to be the mini genius over at Barron, so it's good to see him in here. I think he now works for Volkswagen out in Columbia, Missouri. Timothy Daniel, rumor has it that the Clubman is going away soon. Any thoughts on when is the latest we can order one? 2022. The Mini Clubman is potentially going to be axed. They have talked about discontinuing it at some point because of slow sales. It's not going to be discontinued anytime soon. It's currently in its 2021 model year. We can probably still see it coming along for a 2022 model year, which would be sometime later this year for the U.S. market. As you all know, the 2022 Mini Cooper Hardtop is already, and convertible, is already available in the next couple of months for the U.S. market. So it's not going to be going away anytime soon, but the rumor is they might not be killing off necessarily. They might be redesigning it and re-envisioning it as a small crossover utility vehicle, sort of like the Mini does this thing where they re-envision cars. So the R55 Clubman was re-envisioned as the F55 four-door hardtop, and then the new Clubman, the F54, became this vehicle. It's a completely different vehicle from the rest of the, or from the previous Clubmans. It's like a whole new car, and they gave it the name Clubman, which is not unusual for companies to discontinue a model name and then bring it along as something else. Case in point, Mitsubishi did that with the Eclipse. So it's not unusual for companies to do that. So it's not that I think they're going to be discontinuing the Clubman at some point, but it's not going to be in the next couple of years. It might be with the redesign of the cars. They may do it then, but it's not going to happen sooner than that. But I'm hoping that they keep it going along for a while at least, because the Clubman's honestly one of my favorite cars. I think it's a really great vehicle. So you gotta love it. Manny says Americans have no respect for the wagon people. For the wagon people, crazy. Yeah, The problem with that is people call it a station wagon, and it's not. Truth be told, it's not a wagon, it's a clubman. It's basically a four-door shooting brake, as the British would call it. The vehicle, it looks like it has the wagon look because of its low roof line and long body. But in all honesty, the car's dimensions are more akin to a Volkswagen Golf or a Volkswagen GTI. They are about the same dimensions. In fact, I think the Clubman is maybe an inch shorter than the Volkswagen GTI. So it's kind of in that same ballpark in terms of size, but because of the styling of the vehicle to keep it kind of a mini aesthetic, it ends up looking like a wagon. So you can call it a wagon. I know that Steve Carabas, who's the brand educator for Mini USA, I know he would call it a wagon because he loves wagons. And Steve, if you're watching, I love wagons too. I just still don't think that the Clubman should be called a wagon. But if you're going to call it a wagon, fine. But I feel like that might hurt sales, but I don't think I think people just need to get over it and enjoy the fact that it's a cool car, wagon aside. Timothy Daniel, do you think we will see Laguna Blue on the Clubman or three-door? Deep Laguna Metallic is a color that's currently available on the Sidewalk Edition convertible. Just so you know, the Sidewalk Edition convertible is continuing into the 2022 model year with the facelift, so it's going to be around for a little longer, and they've added Zesty Yellow as a color option for that car. But Deep Laguna Metallic, I know they're going to be offering it on the Countryman as the Boardwalk Edition, which is a special edition. I'm not sure if they're going to ever offer it on the Clubman or the three-door. It'd be kind of cool if they did, but I think Mini gave the hatchbacks and convertibles the island blue just so that they could have a blue color that's not quite as purple as the Starlight Blue, but not quite as deep as the Deep Laguna Metallic. So that may be something that's going to change at some point. They might come out with a special edition Hardtop. They might come out with a special edition Clubman. You never know. I mean, they did have a Starlight Edition Clubman before they actually had Starlight Blue on the Clubman. Elijah Falconer, what do you like most about minis? That's a very broad question. You'd have to get almost really specific. I love everything about the Mini brand. I like the aesthetics of the vehicles. I like the people that I've met from being around the brand. It was Mini Takes States in 2018 and met a lot of cool people. Got to meet some of the people from Plant Oxford. It was just a really cool experience. So being part of the Mini community is just something that I just really enjoy. I like the cars in general. It doesn't matter what model it is. I could be driving an R55, I could be driving an R53, I could be driving an F60, and I would love them all because they're a Mini. There's something really, really kind of cool about the Mini brand. I just don't know exactly how to put it. There's just something I just really, really like. And I know a lot of you out there who own Minis know what I'm talking about here. It's just something you can't quite put your fingers on what it is. Elijah also wants to know if I like the facelift. Yes, I actually do like the facelift. I mean, a lot of people are saying that it looks like it has a Fu Manchu mustache. I heard a rumor that the original F-Car, or not the original F-Car, I heard a rumor that the original Classic Mini was intentionally designed to look like it had a face, like the 1959 Mini. So there's sort of a rumor about that. I don't think it's true, but it had a large grille for the size of the car. So the F-Cars having a large grille or a large outline that looks like a grille is not unusual for Mini as far as cars are concerned. The R53 and R56 were kind of a huge departure from that because they went from the giant grille to this tiny grille right here. And in fact, the actual grille for the car where it pulled in air for the radiator and intercooler was actually, well, on the later cars, the intercooler is actually in the front bumper, not in the upper grille. That upper grille is pretty much almost decorative, at least on the current cars, but it does offer a little bit of airflow. And Elijah's also been to Plant Oxford. That's awesome. Timothy Daniel, what are your plans for your Pepper White Mini? Keeping it, any mods? I drive my car so much. I bought it last March. It's going to pass 70,000 miles tomorrow. My job basically has me going all over the place to do work. So effectively, I've put tons of miles on this car, and that was the reason I bought this car, is because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of miles, and I wanted a vehicle that was going to be incredibly reliable for that purpose. So that's why I bought it. I plan to keep it. Modifications, I plan to get the splitter guard, or not splitter, I plan to get the, not splitter guards, I don't know why I said splitter guards, that's a Dodge thing. I plan to get the Pro splitters for the front installed. I'm going to do LED side marker lights. I'm going to do a Pro diffuser on the back at some point. You've all seen the wheels on the car. It looks fantastic that way. You've seen the JCW wheel arches I installed in the car. I'm going to do a video eventually of all the modifications that have been done to the car thus far, along with the upcoming vinyl overhaul. I'm redoing the vinyl, kind of simplifying the aesthetic, just because I feel like, as cool as it is and kind of how noticeable it is, I feel like it's a little over the top. So I want to kind of tone it down a hair while making the car more interesting in a way. So that's happening, that's going to be happening as well. Elijah also says Minis are the most British cars ever. That is true. Aside from Jaguars, aside from Jaguars and Land Rovers, Minis are probably the most British car out there, despite the fact that the company is owned by BMW. I know people like to call them BMW Minis. Here's my take on that. If you're going to call it a BMW Mini, then you have to start calling the Rolls-Royce Phantom a BMW Rolls-Royce, and they won't let you do that. So it's not a BMW Mini, just like it's not a BMW Rolls-Royce. Anyway, Timothy Daniel, chili red Clubman with a black roof or enigmatic black with red roof? Either. But if you're going to do chili red Clubman, I'd do it for white roof. I think it looks really cool for white roof. Enigmatic black with red roof, I've seen it. It looks phenomenal. In fact, the sales manager at the Mini dealership here, he has an enigmatic black with red roof, although he recently had the roof wrapped in purple. So really cool looking car now with a satin purple roof. But yeah, red roof with enigmatic black looks really cool. But if you're going to do the chili red, yeah, you can do the black roof. But if you want to be kind of cool, kind of classic Mini aesthetic, you could do the white roof, and that would look really cool. Do I have the Union Jack taillights, otherwise known as the Union Flag taillights? No, I do not have them on my car. I had talked with a friend of mine down in Florida who recently totaled his wide JCW. He goes by the name Mayo Chickens on Instagram. His name's Gabriel. He totaled that car. He was going to sell me his Union Jack taillights. I think I missed the opportunity to buy them. But at the same time, I'm debating if I was going to install those taillights or I have an opportunity to possibly get OEM Union Jack taillights, so I might install those as well. So we'll see what happens. I know that if I install those, I'm going to have to go into Beamer code and code the car to work with them. And thankfully, the Mini vlog on YouTube has done that with his previous JCW. So there's instructions basically on how to do that. So I'm going to be able to check that out and try to see if I can do it with my own car when the time comes. Manny Garcia, get a MS-13 on the side. I'm not going to copy Amir. Sorry, Manny. I think he had an MS-13 sticker on his car as a joke one point. It was either him or it was Rocky, but I'm not going to put an MS-13 sticker on my car. No, but the killer, if anyone wants to know what the Killer Clown Mobile is, this is Manny who's talked about this. The Killer Clown Mobile, we jokingly call it, was the green and purple coupe that had the wide wheels, had the big hood scoop, and there was a roadster that looked just like it. They both were recently sitting in the Mini showroom in Kansas City until recently. They moved the coupe out. The coupe is now actually wrapped in gold, or like a yellowish gold. But the convertibles, the roadster, is still sitting in the showroom, and they're just the craziest Minis. You can see them all over Facebook. They are the most loved and at the same time the most hated Minis in the world. Basically, it's really kind of funny. The Real Cigar. I have a 2015 Chili Red Countryman S. Love it. Just purchased a roof box this week. That is awesome. Great car. And Elijah Falconer, I agree with the BMW Rolls-Royce Phantom thing. Yeah, we were not going to call the Rolls-Royce a BMW. I mean, yes, it shares BMW components, but it's a Rolls-Royce. Just like the Mini shares BMW components, but it's a Mini. It's kind of the way companies are. I mean, you're going to, let's see, let me give you an example. General Motors owns Chevrolet, Cadillac, Buick, GMC, but you're not going to call it a GMC Buick. or a GMC Chevrolet. You're going to call it what it is. Car companies own other brands. Volkswagen owns Audi. Volkswagen owns Porsche. Volkswagen owns Lamborghini. You're not going to call it a Volkswagen Lamborghini Huracan, are you? So I digress. Timothy Daniel, I bought my Union Flag taillights for my 2018 and I didn't need to do any coating. You must have bought the ones from either... There's several companies out there. I know I think Outmotoring carries them. I know ECS Tuning carries them, and I know SMPS 2012, which is a company out in the UK. I know they carry them as well. So there are versions where you don't have to code them. They're designed that way. The reason I was talking about having to code them is the ones I'm looking at getting are OEM taillights. They are the ones designed for the cars, for the facelift cars, and my car is a pre-facelift car, or a pre-first facelift car. It gets confusing when they do a first and second facelift with the car brand. So my car is a 2017, so you could call it a pre-LCI, but it's not a pre-LCI if there's a second LCI, so it's pre-first LCI, I guess, is for lack of a better term. I don't know what we're going to have to call them now. Anyway, it's basically, you get the idea. I have a 650i also, so I have the best of both worlds. The 650i, interesting vehicle. Did you all know that we don't get the 6 Series in the US anymore, but they do have it in Europe still? So that was a surprise to me when I saw stock footage for it on the press club, and I was like, I thought they discontinued that car. They didn't. They just discontinued it for the US market. So they actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Series cars. I'm waiting for them to come out with an X8 version of their SUV that's a coupe of the X7, because I don't quite understand BMW's obsession with coupe SUVs, much like I don't understand their obsession with sedan versions of coupes. Yeah. Sasha wants to say, if you had to trade your F56 for another car, not a Mini, what would it be? BMW M2 Competition. That wasn't that difficult. So not a Mini. Yeah, I would go with a BMW M2 Competition with a proper manual transmission in Hockenheim Silver. And unfortunately, you can't get it with a red interior, but I'd probably have it modified send it to an upholstery shop and have a red interior installed. So there you go. What do you think of the JCW Aftermarket exhaust tips? I have them, and they are awesome. The JCW Aftermarket exhaust tips, I'm not exactly sure what those are. I think those might be the carbon fiber ones, I'm assuming. But those are really cool. Those are really cool tailpipes. The JCW Pro exhaust in general is a cool exhaust system. My car actually has a JCW exhaust. It's kind of an odd tuning kit setting because I have a Cooper S with a JCW tuning kit. I don't have the full tuning kit, so I have the engine tuning, but I don't have the exhaust system. I actually have a OEM JCW exhaust system on the car. It was kind of a special deal I worked out with the dealership to get this, so it ended up working out in my favor, and I got this great sounding exhaust system with the tuning kit, and I didn't have to get the Pro exhaust, despite the fact that I would love the Pro exhaust. But at the time, and even right now, I just don't have the money to do it. So KC has $, $, $. Not sure what you mean by that, but okay. Real Cigar, yes. Final order. How much is the new 3-door JCW hardtop going to cost, like the new facelift? I've been told all the cars have gone up by $500 across the board. So that's only a $500 increase. JCW hardtop is still going to start for classic trim around $34,000, I believe, and that's with a manual transmission. And then they can go up even higher than that. I've seen them cross over the $42,000 mark for fully loaded iconic trim with the signature upholstery, all the bells and whistles. My ideal configuration for a JCW hardtop would probably be chili red, white roof, track spoke wheels, the sport stripe cloth interior, the double stripe cloth interior, otherwise known as Dynamica. There's also a Dynamica that's suede, or like a suede leather thing, but I don't like that one as much. Manual transmission, you get the deal. Casey, your BMW choice. I had priced the one new, and the options added were, expensive. Yeah, a BMW M2 Competition is incredibly expensive if you're going to buy one of those. That's why it's better to buy them used, although they're not much cheaper. So it's really kind of strange. It's not strange, really. It's an interesting car. It's probably the M2 competition is probably as close to a true M car, like a true earlier M car as you could get. It's like almost as it's almost like driving a E46 M3. It's kind of in that same kind of category. It's kind of a raw kind of car still, whereas the M3 and M4 with the bucked teeth are way too modern, kind of futuristic, and you get the deal. Off-center Productions. Why is there no blindside monitor on the two-door hardtop JCW? Can Minis be repaired at BMW dealers? Minis could be repaired at BMW dealers, but I know a lot of BMW technicians who will not repair them just because they somehow have this thing where it's beneath them to work on a Mini. Go figure. As far as blind spot, Minis don't need blind spot alerts because here's how it works. So, case in point, here's the car, here's your rear view mirror. You're looking ahead. Here's your side view mirror. Here's your other side view mirror. Adjust the mirrors correctly. Don't aim them at the sides of your car. Adjust it so you can see just the edge or just the outside edge of the lines to your each side. If you're on like a 3-lane road, you want to see the line coming through the innermost corner of your mirror on both sides. If you have that set up and then you have your rear view mirror just right, you don't need blind spots, because I don't have blind spot alert in my car, and I know exactly what's next to me, what's coming up next to me, because if I can't see them in the mirror here, I can see them in the rear view mirror, and if I can't see them in the rear view mirror, I can see them in my side view mirror. It's all the way the mirrors are adjusted. You adjust your mirrors properly, you're not going to have a problem with in terms of blind spots. Now, no, Mini is not planning to do blind spot alert. They did, however, add a lane departure warning for 2022, but they're not going to do blind spot alert because the cars don't have big enough blind spots to warrant blind spot alert if you know how to properly adjust your mirrors. And I've gotten into a lot of cars with my job as a dealership inventory photographer where the mirrors are like aimed right at the sides of the car, and I'm like, the point of having the mirrors there is so you see what's next to you on each side of your car, not what's on the side of your car. I'd rather not be looking at the side of my car. I'd rather be looking at the traffic next to me. So a proper adjustment of your mirrors will negate the need for blind spot alert. Timothy Daniel mentioned some colors are going away as part of the second line. Does that apply across the range? Given the fact that there's 4 colors that are being discontinued. And they could come back as special editions, but in the meantime, they're being discontinued. And that's just for the hardtop as far as I know. But I think it's just for the hardtop, so don't quote me. But Thunder Gray, Caribbean Aqua, Solaris Orange, and Starlight Blue are going away for the hardtop and convertible. And they've been replaced by Rooftop Gray, Zesty Yellow, and Island Blue. Sasha says stock M2 will appreciate in the long run. That's true. Alexander Johansson, hi from Sweden. Hello. How are you? I'm sure it's probably colder. It might be warmer there than it is here, actually. We've had some really cold weather lately. Manny said, did you sell that M2 CS yet? Did I sell an M2 CS yet? I don't have it at M2 CS, so no. So I don't know which car you're talking about. Elijah says, are you going to buy a Cooper S electric Mini? If I had the money to buy one, I probably would buy a Cooper S electric Mini just because I think it's kind of a fun car. And funny thing, I actually went by the Mini dealership the other day, and one of the salespeople had actually let some people go out and test drive it, and they test drove it in the snow and ice. And some of you might not know the electric Mini has summer tires on it. But it handled incredibly well, which is kind of amusing. And I think it has more to do with the fact that because of the way electric cars are designed, when you let off the throttle, the car slows itself down using the motor. So I think in that instance, the need for snow tires or all seasons on that car in this kind of weather was kind of not necessary because of the way it functions. So it was kind of funny. I think she said she didn't know it didn't have summer tires on it at the point in time. It was kind of funny. But yeah, it doesn't have all season tires. It has summer tires. But it's kind of it's a really cool car. I think they're great little cars, and the facelift makes them look even cooler. In fact, there's going to be one coming to the Mini dealership. It's part of the Mini Electric collection. It'll be in island blue with the multi-tone 3-tone roof. So it'll look really cool. And I think the sales manager said he deleted the sunroof on it because we've seen what it looks like with a sunroof, and it really kind of reduces the effect, or it kind of destroys the effect of that really cool 3-tone roof. So it will have no sunroof, but it'll be a really cool car. Timothy Daniel, it looks like the buttons on the steering wheel of the second LCI are gloss black. Can you confirm? Not a fan of gloss black on touch points. Yes, it's gloss black, but if you've ever noticed some of the piano black finishes in the Mini Cooper, they do not scratch nearly as easily as you might think. So I think these buttons are actually going to be pretty decent and they're not going to have any issues. And usually touch surfaces that are gloss black, they tend to make them more resilient than surfaces that people aren't normally touching on the car. So it's probably going to be fine. They're going to work incredibly well as well. What are your thoughts on future JCW models potentially going electric? If they increase, I would say if they increase the range, given the fact that those are the performance cars, it'd be kind of fun to have that. They've talked about that JCW GP3E or GPE electric JCW. That car, I was hearing rumors of a twin electric motor setup. So twice the horsepower, and then hopefully twice the battery life. Given it's a 2-seater, they can probably put more batteries in the car. But I haven't thought of that. I haven't thought of what that's going to mean for the electric Mini. I think for JCW being an electric brand. I think what I'm hoping for is that the JCW is more of a hybrid system. They do a hybrid thing rather than full electric, and I don't think they're going to just go strictly electric with that car. I think they'll have electric power plants, but still have internal combustion as an option. Let's see here. The Real Cigar, run flats or all-season tires? All-season tires. Run flats are harsh. They're uncomfortable. They're expensive. And they're difficult to repair. Like if you get a puncture of one of those, I think you actually have to replace the tire. But I'm not a fan of run flats. I'd rather have all seasons. Even if I don't have a spare tire, I'd rather have all seasons. Would you modify a Mini? Or why would you modify a Mini? It's more of you can do it for performance. You can do it for aesthetics. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to. I know people who won't. I know one of my friends who bought a GP3 recently is not planning to modify it, not planning to do any performance mods, not really any cosmetic mods, probably because the car is already a little over the top. But I think it's more of a thing. It's personal. It's a personalization thing, and Minis are about personalization, making the car your own, or as many used to call it, youification. And it's kind of a thing to make the car yours, make it so that no others are alike. Because there used to be a time where you could order a Mini and you could order it in any spec you wanted with as very few options as you wanted. Because I owned one that its only factory option was a limited slip differential, and that was it. So there was a time where you could spec them any way you wish. Now you can still kind of do that, but then they've created these package things. So you have Classic, Signature, Iconic, or in the UK, Classic, Sport, and Exclusive. So they've created these trim levels now. I still think that it's more fun to just kind of personalize it and make it more your own car, because the whole point of a Mini is that no two are alike. So there's nothing wrong with modifying them. I think it's a great idea too. Elijah said, correct, the Rolls-Royce Dawn convertible is just a convertible BMW 7 Series. Correct. Elijah also said, look up Adelaide Mini Garage on Facebook and scroll back to 21st June 2019. I'll have to check that out later. We'll see what that is. But if anyone else is looking at this right now, go to Adelaide Mini Garage on Facebook and scroll back to the 21st of June in 2019. Final order, never owned a Mini, and I always wanted one. I really want the new JCW 3-door that's coming out soon. Should I lease? If you're one of those people, pardon me. It's an alarm on my phone. If you're one of those people who's going to be wanting the newest car every single year, not every single year, but like every 3 years, kind of like how people want the latest iPhone every year, you would probably be best suited to leasing. Make sure that you get it adjusted with your mileage. So if you're going to do 36,000 miles in 3 years, that's a decent lease. If you're going to do less than that, like 5,000 miles a year, or 5,000 miles a year, or 5,000 miles a year, that's a decent lease as well. If you want to get, if you're going to do it to just to get your, if you're going to do a lease just to get your car payment as low as possible, not necessarily the most ideal option, but it is doable. And in that case, you could just drive it however long you want to drive it, and just ignore the lease term entirely. But if you're going to get a new car every 3 years, a lease is usually not a bad idea. If you're intending to keep the car longer than that, or you tend to drive more than what the lease would allow, usually your best option is to buy the car. But like I said, with the leasing thing, if you're just using the lease to get your payment as low as possible, then that's not a bad option either. It's not necessarily recommended, and I don't think there's a lot of manufacturers out there that will necessarily let you do that. But there are some. So those are good options. I love tinkering with my Mini, inexpensive enough to modify as you go. This is true. The modifications, despite some of the modifications for your Mini topping out at like $500 to $1,000, or even somewhere in that range, it's still fairly inexpensive to modify a Mini Cooper in the greater scheme of things. $500 for a modification for your car these days is actually considered cheap. I've seen some cars where it's $1,000, $800, you name it, to do some sort of modification, even if it's something as just simple like an intake. Jeanette, what do you think about the Countryman Hybrid? I love the Countryman Hybrid, and in fact, I do have a video coming up soon on the 2021 Mini Countryman Hybrid, some of the updates they've done to it. This particular one was a nice spec, so I did a video on that, so you're going to get to see that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. But good-looking car. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of fun to drive, too, because you can switch it in full electric mode, and it just drives the rear wheels. So all in all, I really do like that car. If you're someone, though, who's going to have tall children, the back seat is a little tight because to get the batteries and everything, they raised the seat up a couple of inches, so your headroom's a little bit less than what it would be in the regular Countryman's. But otherwise, overall, it's not terrible. It's decent, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. But otherwise, it's still the regular Countryman It's still the regular Countryman. It's just that they raise the seat up a little bit so that you can clear the batteries for the cars. Kind of just a strange thing, but it's just the back seat. So. Casey, there's a limited slip differential on which models? I thought I might have to add one. There is a mechanical limited slip differential on the GP3, the John Cooper Works Countryman from 2020 onward, and the John Cooper Works Clubman from 2020 onward. They all have mechanical front LSD. So those are the ones to look for. Elijah Falconer, Furious Driving has a pre-production Chili Red R50. That's an unusual one, a pre-production R50. Elijah says, my dentist really wants a Mini, and her husband bought her one in Chili Red, but it was a manual transmission, and she can only drive cars with automatic transmission. Oh dear. Teach her how to drive. Tell her husband. Yeah. Tell her husband to teach her how to drive a manual. My mom knows how to drive a manual. I learned how to drive a manual. Manual transmissions are much more fun to drive. Despite the fact that the automatic shifts faster, the manual is still much more fun to drive. That being said, the GP3, the JCW Clubman, and the JCW Countryman are also incredibly fun to drive, even with no manual transmission. So it's kind of give or take. But as far as the hardtop is concerned, manual transmission is the ideal transmission to have in a hardtop. Timothy, I'm confused with the DSC and traction control. Can you explain the difference when driving in winter? Should you turn one on or off? Or should you leave the car in default mode? Considering I've been driving my car in this kind of weather, I have driven it in default, just not touching the switch at all most of the time. But if I wanted a little bit more traction, I would flip the toggle, and that would give me traction control. It will show you a little warning light, and you'll have traction control. If you hold it for 10 seconds, it will disengage everything. So you will have none of those things. No dynamic stability control, no traction control. Now, another neat trick, though, if you're driving in slick conditions, and please drive slowly if you're driving in slick condition, if you have the driving modes in your Mini and you flip it over to eco mode or green mode, it'll actually do something with the shifting. It'll like slow the shifting down, slow the engine revs down a little bit. to the point where the car actually drives better in the snow and ice than it would in mid mode or sport mode. So I've actually driven it in green mode when I've hit slick road conditions, and the car drives even better that way. So there's different ways you can kind of trick the car or manipulate the car so that you can do that. But don't ever shut off all the systems in your car unless you intend to go out to an empty lot and do donuts in the ice and snow, which you can do. And if you turn off all the systems, it will let you do that. I don't recommend it if you're one of those people who doesn't want to slide into a curb or a light pole. So just be careful if you're going to do any of that stuff. Watch this YouTube video or channel called Dashcam Bristol because he and his wife partner did a mini slap game. That's funny. That's kind of like Slugbug. Falconer. So those color minis are going to go up in value. The ones that are being discontinued, no, they won't necessarily go up in value. It just means those colors aren't going to be around anymore because there was I think it was called Black-Eyed Purple. That was a color for a while with the R53, and you can't get that color anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean that the car is more valuable. It just means you can't get that color anymore. I had an R56 that was in iced chocolate. That was only available for 4 model years, and you can't get it anymore. In fact, when I wrecked that car, I was really disappointed because I couldn't find another iced chocolate Mini Cooper. But yeah, there's unusual colors out there, but they're not necessarily rare, and they won't necessarily affect the value of your vehicle, especially even if you were going to go trade your car in. The color really doesn't mean anything. In fact, whenever I buy a Mini Cooper, I don't look at the color. I look at I look at the spec. So my Mini that I own right now is pepper white with a black roof. I would have bought it if it were chili red with a white roof, chili red with a black roof. It could have been black with a white roof. It could have been green with a black roof, and it wouldn't have mattered because I was going for the car based on its equipment and not necessarily its color. So the colors are kind of irrelevant when it comes to minis for me. That might not be the case for you all. So but no, the colors are not going to affect the value of the car. The GP3, though, being available only in racing gray metallic, that might affect the value, but I don't think so. But that remains to be seen because we don't know how this car is going to depreciate or appreciate. Best EV ever. Electric Mini, of course. What's the difference of the 2021 3-door JCW and the 2022 3-door JCW horsepower? Should I get the latest and greatest or go used? The 2021 JCW Hardtop uses the B46D, 228 horsepower, 231 foot-pounds of torque. The 2022 JCW Hardtop uses the B46D, 228 horsepower, 231 foot-pounds of torque. Same engine. However, in this instance, it's more about what the styling is. Do you want the pre-facelift or do you want post-facelift? So do you want the newer look, the newer aesthetic, or do you want the old aesthetic? That's completely up to you. Elijah says, I think all modern retro cars are good. All modern retro cars are good. Well, Mini is trying not to be not to be so retro. They're trying to be a little bit more of a evolutionary thing, not a revolutionary thing. So they kind of harken back to the old cars, but they're not trying to direct copy. Now, the retro craze of the 90s, early 90s, or late 90s, early 2000s, that was the Chevy HHR, the Chrysler PT Cruiser, the Plymouth Prowler, the Ford Thunderbird. Those kind of came and went. And Mini has kind of kept going because they are harkening back to the old car while not trying to be a copy of old cars. So I think that's why they stuck around. But yeah, I guess in a sense, modern retro is kind of cool. Have you ever been in the Ride the Dragon Mini event? Casey, I've never been in the Ride the Dragon Mini event. Let me skip down here real quick. Final order sent me $4.99. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Great content. Very helpful. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you watching. I'm sorry that the screen's kind of garbling a little bit right now. My internet's been doing terrible with the ice and snow being the way it is outside, so I apologize if it's not looking as crisp as it should right now. There we go. We're back to normal. But yeah, I appreciate the support on the channel, and I'm hoping to keep going with this, keep this channel going for many years to come. We'll just keep plugging along. All right. Elijah says, which Mini do you think represents the best value for money? Best value for money. Which Mini? I would have to say that if we're talking new, then the best deal you could possibly get is F56 because sorry, not F56. The best deal you could possibly get is a Cooper S because you're getting more for your money by getting a Cooper S than you'd be getting with a Cooper, because you can spend $36,000 on a Cooper, but if you spend $36,000 on a Cooper S, it ends up being a better car, more car. And I am apologizing here because my screen is like getting all blurry. My connection must not be as great as it should be. Elijah. Ryan Conklin, I loved the video of the 3-cylinder with the JCW in the Cooper S exhaust. That was so cool. Love your channel. Thank you, Ryan. Elijah, what got you into minis? For me, it was probably the first time I watched Mr. Bean. I have to thank, if he's watching tonight, it's a friend of mine, Tommy Ellison. But before I get to him, Timothy didn't even say anything there, but he sent me $5. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate your support. But let me get back up to you with what got me into minis. It was a friend of mine named Tommy. He had a Mini. He had a 2006 R53. I was getting ready to buy a new car. I was getting ready to graduate from college, and my grandmother had died the previous year and left money for me to buy a new car. So my friend was like, well, if you're going to buy a new car, because I was looking at all these other things, automatic transmissions, of course. And he was like, well, if you're going to buy a new car, buy a Mini. And I'm like, okay. So I looked at Minis. And he's like, if you're going to buy a Mini, buy one with a manual. So he taught me how to drive a manual in his Mini, and following week, my parents went out and picked it up for me. They went to a Volvo dealership and bought me my first Mini. It was a 2006 R53, loaded with almost every option. It had the Chrono Pack and had the Chrono Pack gauge cluster. It had a limited slip differential from the factory, xenon headlights, the rear fog light. It had everything. It was a great little car. I had that car for 4 years, put a lot of miles on it, loved that car, ended up trading it. I ended up selling it, actually, because I ended up buying a newer Mini because the car started to wear out. But what got me, it kind of got me into Minis, and then I was driving that, got into another one later, got into another one. Eventually, it became a vicious cycle where I just loved the brand so much that I just had to keep going with the car. So I just kept buying Minis, and here we are today. The Mini is what led me to create this channel. It was kind of just this Mini, the community involved with it, and then the next thing I know, I'm doing this YouTube channel with the Mini Cooper. So it's kind of cool how that happens. Let's see here. Elijah also said, I would never modify a Mini unless I bought some Mini-related decal. You could. I don't know why. Some people want to modify, some people don't want to modify. I like to modify them. I think it's kind of fun. It depends on how far you want to go. My F car, I don't plan to ever do any tuning to it because I've heard horror stories about people who tune their cars because if you're not doing it properly, you could blow the engine up. If you don't do the right ECU tune, if you don't do the right chip tune, if you're not careful, basically. So it can cause problems if you're not careful. It really also depends on the engine. So it's kind of a hit or miss. There's modifications that you could do without causing too much issue. You could do exhaust, you can do intakes, you could do intercoolers, you could do tube or piping in the engine bay. You could do upgraded spark plugs. You can do upgraded suspension. Upgraded suspension is usually the best way to go. Upgrade wheels and tires, kind of just improve the handling of the vehicle overall. That's probably your best modification. As far as performance goes, the current F cars are fantastic when it comes to performance because they have a lot of torque. So really, really good motors in that regard. So there are some modifications you can still do with those cars. There are modifications you can do with the old cars. It really depends. Some people out there want to modify them. Some people don't want to modify them. I'm kind of in the middle where I want to modify it, but I don't have the money to modify it. So it's kind of, there's things I want to do, but I can't. So right now I'm mostly focusing on cosmetic stuff. I don't really want to do any more performance stuff right now until I figure out what it is I want to do. But we'll get to that at some point. So Ryan says, I have a 2010 R56 Mini Cooper S, added the JCW tuning kit. Good choice. I didn't know in 2010 the JCW kit was a dealer-installed option. Is that case with newer Minis? No. The JCW tuning kit was available from like 2002, 2003, all the way through until the end of the 2020 or beginning of 2020 model year. Mini has no longer offers technical support to install JCW tuning kits, as far as I know, for the newer cars. And in fact, I heard that they're not going to have any JCW tuning kits for the 2022 model years, at least for the US market, if not for the entire world. The JCW exhaust, the Pro exhaust, was still available to be installed even in the 2021 model years, because I've seen it done. But I don't think it's going to be able to be done on the 2022 models. But that remains to be seen. If we find a way, if the dealership I go to finds a way to do it, I'm sure they will. But we'll have to just wait and see what happens. But the tuning kit's been around for a long time. Prior to 2009, the only way you could get a JCW was usually a dealer installed tuning kit or even a factory installed tuning kit. But in 2009, they launched 2009 model year for the US. They launched the JCW John Cooper Works model, and at that point, you now had a factory John Cooper Works model. But prior to that, there was no way to do it. So my 2008 R56 that I had, that had the JCW tuning kit on it, that was technically a John Cooper Works, because prior to 2009, you couldn't get a John Cooper Works from the factory. So effectively it was, but it's kind of an interesting situation. I have discussions with people about whether a tuning kit Mini qualifies as a John Cooper Works, and I like to say that yes, even though it is a Cooper S with a JCW tuning kit, JCW is still part of the name on that car. There is a badge on the car that says it has JCW componentry on it, and we're not talking about sill plates, interior trim, exterior trim, and steering wheels. We're talking about it actually has programming, tuning in the engine bay that says that that basically is making this car think that it is a John Cooper Works. Granted, it's not as high a horsepower rating. The John Cooper Works John Cooper Works engines currently have 228 horsepower. The ones with the tuning kits have 210 horsepower. But I still think that they should be considered JCWs, even though they are tuning kitted ones, because there was a time when that was the only way you could do it. Let me scroll down. Oh, wow. We got a lot of comments in here. I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping up with y'all. So Elijah says, Minis are every car you'll ever need. This is true. Casey, look at the Ride the Dragon dash cam views on YouTube. There's like 250 turns in 11 miles through Smoky Mountains. Absolute blast. Got some great vids out there. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing the Minis on the Dragon at some point. I just haven't done it yet, and it's a little expensive for me to get out there to do that. But we'll think about it at some point. Real Cigar, I had an R53, traded it in on an R60. Love them both. Good choices. Elijah, which do you prefer, the Italian Job with Michael Caine or the Italian Job of Mark Wahlberg? The Italian Job of Michael Caine, because it's funnier. I enjoy it more. The Mark Wahlberg one is more of a action movie, whereas the previous one was kind of a action with a little bit of humor in there. So I like the original one more so than I like the newer one, but I was introduced to Minis through the modern one. I didn't even know there was a classic movie at one point. Have you seen that Hoovie's Garage bought an MC40? Yes, I've seen Hoovie's Garage bought an MC40. In fact, I commented on his video about what he should do to fix that car. So when he looked at his bill and it was like $8,000 something, that's because the previous owner didn't maintain it. If you don't maintain the car every year, it's going to add up over time. So that's $8,000. That's a 2003 model year. So that's $8,000. I think it's 2003. It's 2004. So that's $8,000 over a 16, 17-year period. Yeah, that's about right. So if you split that up over the last 17 years, that ends up being a lot less money. So that's all deferred maintenance because the previous owner didn't take care of it. Ryan Conklin says to Elijah, I wanted to get the Mark Wahlberg Mini. I'm trying to figure out what spec that was. Mark Wahlberg's Mini was a blue, and I think it was an Indy blue R50 hardtop with the JCW appearance package and JCW tuning kit. So there you go. If you wanted to know what his car was, it was an R50. The white Mini in the movie was an R50. The only red one was the one that Stella Bridger drove, and that was the nice, really cool chili red R53. But yeah, Mark Wahlberg's Mini was an Indy blue R50. And in fact, I think a few of the cars that were used, the ones for the subway scenes, were actually electric cars. They actually had electric motors in them. Let's see, Elijah, do you like the D-Chrome? I really hate it. I think it is like putting a digital face on Big Ben. And I've seen a digital face on Big Ben if you've ever watched Futurama. But as far as D-Chroming goes, it's kind of a thing. It's kind of a one or the other. I've had minis where I've had it completely chromed. I've had minis where I've had half D-chromed, half chrome. So I've had several minis actually where there's been a lot of D-chrome on the car, but there's been still some chrome. Like I left the door handles chrome on two of my previous minis. I left the belt line chrome on two of my previous minis. My current car, the only thing chrome on it still is the belt line. I might black that out. I might leave it alone. But in the meantime, there's still some chrome on my car. But the rest of it's blacked out. It really kind of depends on the aesthetic. I kind of like the blacked out trim look, but I also kind of like the chrome in the right aesthetic. It has to work with the car. If it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to do it. Excuse me. Start with tires. Yeah, there you go. Start with tires if you're going to modify. Okay, where am I? You guys are commenting like crazy tonight. Elijah Falconer, she is looking at buying one with an automatic. Okay, well, she's going to trade it in for an automatic. That's fine. I guess that's her thing. I would keep the manual, just learn how to drive it. Have you seen the song My Mini by Car Throttle? I have not seen the song, but I did hear the song Little Mini Cooper by some rap artist, I think. I can't remember where, but it was what a friend of mine showed me the other day. I was like, oh, that's funny. But no, I have not seen that song. Ryan Conklin, so the JCW suspension kit, is that worth it? The JCW Pro suspension kit is adjustable coilovers. Depends on what you want. It's worth it if you want to have that. If you don't want to do that, you can get away with lowering springs. If you're going to do lowering springs, the best bang for your buck in terms of lowering springs would be New Speed's or NM Engineering's lowering springs for your Mini, because I think they actually drop it the furthest. Because I know Eibach drops it about 3/4 of an inch. My car is dropped about 1.25 inches front and rear, so it's drops it about 1/2 an inch further than the Eibach. So if you're going to lower it and you don't necessarily want to be able to raise and adjust the suspension, then the lowering springs are usually the best choice for you. But if you're going to be somebody who wants to raise and lower and adjust your height periodically, then I guess the JCW Pro suspension was probably not going to be a bad choice either. It's a little pricey, but if you're willing to spend that kind of money for good quality components, you can't go wrong. Elijah says, when people ask me what my favorite car is, they would expect to hear me say Ferrari or Lamborghini. Well, of course, everyone would expect that, but I like to, if someone's going to ask me what my favorite car is, I'm going to think of a car that's within reach. That's something that's reasonably accessible, something I can actually own. I could become one of those famous YouTubers someday that owns a Ferrari or Lamborghini, but you can be definitely sure I probably would not, because that's too much car and too much money to spend on a car. Why spend 200 grand on a Lamborghini or a Ferrari when I could spend 40 grand on a Mini and then spend the others 160,000 and buy a house? So my priorities are different, I guess, but there are people out there who want to spend that kind of money on a car. So that's just my thing. Mayo Chickens, there he is. There's Gabriel, who just said hello to everybody. I'm sorry I didn't get to you until now. And final order, holy crap, $20, thank you. If there was the Miniac series 3-door hardtop trim look like, and would it have JCW engine? If there was a Miniac series of the 3-door hardtop, it would be a JCW. It would be, I think it would actually end up being, because I have a Cooper S right now for JCW appearance package, but it would be a JCW hardtop with the 301 horsepower engine, with the mechanical LSD, but with a manual transmission, not an automatic. It would have a manual, and of course, it would probably be in the same kind of Monte Carlo Patty Hopkirk color, so it would be red with a white roof. But that's my idea of a cool configuration for the ultimate Miniac series Mini. That's kind of a cool idea. I didn't even think about that. Good question though. I appreciate that. All right, let me get back up here. Would you buy an R56 inspired by Goodwood edition? Elijah, if I bought an R56 inspired by Goodwood edition, I'd modify the heck out of it like I saw on YouTube once. I think it would just look hysterical, and I've seen people go lose their minds over the fact that someone would modify one of those cars. So it's kind of funny just to kind of mess with them and do something like that. But if I got one, I would probably put it on lowering springs, new wheels and tires, upgrade the turbo, upgrade the intercooler, just have fun with it, just mess with people. But I would buy a Goodwood edition if the option arose. Elijah also says, what do you do when you see fellow Mini owners whilst driving? I do this, the Mini Wave, or sometimes I do this. Usually if I don't want to take my hand off the steering wheel, I'll do this. So Elijah says, the next time you go to London, book a tour through small car, big city. If I ever get a chance to go to London, that would be awesome. I just have to wait for this little thing called the pandemic to end just to make that opportunity happen. But we'll see what happens. Elijah Falconer, which do you think is more maxi, Countryman or Vision Urbanaut concept? I don't know exactly what you mean by maxi. I think the Countryman's still a small vehicle, but if you're interested in seeing anything about the Vision Urbanaut, I do have a video coming up on that car. So that should be a funny video. And in this video, not funny, but in this video, I decided to have to let Oliver Heilmer do the talking in this one. So he talks about the car and what he thinks about it, and why he designed it that way. But I think in terms of vehicle size, the Urbanaut would probably be the larger of the two. Minis are the best. Yes, they are. I think the best value Mini is the Clubman JCW because it combines space with pace. This is very true. The JCW Clubman is actually one of the best ones. If you're going to pick one that has the best versatility and overall aesthetics, the Clubman is great. It has a nice amount of floor space for cargo. It's just a really, really great vehicle overall. Mayo Chickens, oh wow, that's crazy. Donations for the best Mini dude on the tube. I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Gabriel. I love the compliments. I don't think I'm as deserving, but I love it. Hey Timothy, if you don't know, go check out Mayo Chickens on Instagram. Gabriel did replace his Mini, the wide JCW. He replaced it with a GP3. So go check out his Instagram on Instagram. I'll even type it in right here. It's at Mayo. So hold on, Mayo. Where we go? It's at. I keep on having my caps lock pop up. There we go. It's at Mayo Chickens. So did it freeze? It froze. Okay. Well, there we go. All right. Go to at Mayo Chickens on Instagram and check out his new Mini. He has a GP3. It's a good looking car, really cool. But if you're interested in parts from his old car, he is selling those parts. So he might be willing to make a good deal with you on some of those parts, including his dual AG rear wing that I would have loved to have bought. I just don't have the money to do it. Let's see here. Timothy Daniel, are you going? Yeah. Ryan Conklin, I have the 18-inch Works wheels from the R53. I don't know how low the JCW suspension kit will drop it. Would you try lowering springs first? You have an R53. Lowering springs would probably be the most ideal option. I didn't know you had an R53 when I suggested the Pro suspension. So you could do lowering springs. The JCW suspension kit won't drop it by much. It'll be enough that the JCW suspension kit that was available for the R53, that is, it won't drop it by much. You really won't have an issue with that. The 18-inch wheels with the correct tires, they still have the same diameter as the 17-inch ones with the tires, so I think you'll be fine. Ryan, the JCW suspension kit is completely adjustable, so you can set it up however you want. Gabriel, Ryan has an R53, so I think the suspension was different on the R53 JCW suspension than the F56 JCW suspension. Samantha, hey Samantha, considering getting a Mini in September. I'm not a big car person. What's the difference between the Cooper S All-4 and the Cooper S? Cooper S All-4, I'm assuming you're referring to the Clubman. Cooper S All-4 has all-wheel drive, which is a special system. It has a drive shaft to go to the rear wheels, but the way the All-4 system works is that it's front-wheel drive bias. When you are full throttle and when you need it, it will use when you are at full throttle and when you need it, it will use 4 wheels for traction and for driving. Under cruising conditions on the highway, it switches all the power to the front wheels. So it's a great system to have. The all four cars also come with an 8-speed sport automatic transmission made by Aisin. Great transmission, really good, really great shifting. It has a nice sport mode in it and manual shift mode with the paddles. If you end up with a Cooper S Clubman that doesn't have the all-4 system, it comes with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Or I think you can get the Cooper S Clubman non-all-4 with a manual still. I don't know if 100% for sure if that's true or not, but those are basically the difference between the two. The horsepower will still be the same. It's just one will have the all-wheel drive. If I had to pick between the two, I'd get the all-4 just because I like the all-wheel drive. I've driven them enough to know that they are incredibly quick in terms of acceleration, and it's just kind of a comfort and security kind of thing to have that all-wheel drive. It just it makes it more of a it makes the car more sure-footed, as it were. And as far as cornering, it's even better with the all-wheel drive. Ryan Conklin, I have an R56 with R53 8-inch wheels on there. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you had. Oh, you have the R53 wheels on your R56. Yeah, that is possible. Yeah, they should still fit. I don't think you'll have any issues still. Ryan Conklin, weird combo, but that's how I got it. Yeah. Here's something you might not know. If any of you are looking for wheels for your R53, R56 wheels will fit your R53. If you have an R56 and you're looking for wheels, R53 wheels will work for your R56. It goes back and forth. The wheels will work on both cars. Case in point, JCWs from the R53 JCWs had the challenge spoke wheels, the 17-inch challenge R112s. Those wheels were also carried over to the R56 generation. So they had those same wheels, except second-gen minis and third-gens have the sensors inside the wheels for the tire pressure. R53s used a rotating sensor that measured the diameter. I think it measured the circumference of the tire, and if it noticed any kind of change in the way the tire was rotating, it would alert you that the tire pressure was low. And wow, we have gotten down to the bottom there. Samantha said, "Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Glad I could have helped you." But we are 1 hour into this. My screen is getting all garbled and everything. So I'm hoping that you all was able to see me still and not see this image that looks like it's all cut out. But I think we're going to probably need to wrap it up here. But I want to thank everybody for coming to this live stream. The first one. This is my Wednesday mini Q&A. If you think this is really cool and you want to see more of these over the coming weeks and months, let me know. My plan is to potentially do one of these every week. And my plan also is to take this live stream right here that I'm now screen recording and turn that into a video that will go up next week that you'll be able to watch. And you'll basically get a recap of this video, and the screen back here will then help out with that as well. So I can put like pictures up and a cool background so you can kind of see the stuff that we've been talking about here. So I can kind of like put it together. But I have to thank the final order again for $20 there. Because of you, I'm now getting the new JCW. That's awesome. I think you're going to make a fantastic choice with that car. It's a great car, and I think you're going to love it. I know I love every single one of the minis I've ever driven, and I love every single one that I've owned. If I had an option to do it, I'd probably buy all of them back. And in fact, my last mini is still driving around Kansas City, my JCW Clubman. So if I ever get the opportunity to buy it, if I ever have the money to do it, I may actually try to get in touch with the owner and see if he'd be willing to sell it back to me. But we'll see what happens. Mayo Chickens, have a good one, broski. Can't wait for the next one. Maria, there you are. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope Puerto Rico is treating you well. Hope it's not cold like it is here. And Ryan says to do more of these. That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to do more of these for sure. I think this is going to be a cool thing. I'll see how this comes out. I'll see how the re-editing of this and turning it into a separate video comes out. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Go stay warm, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. And I will see you all in the next live stream. Check out my video this Friday. I can't remember what video I'm putting up this Friday, but it's going to be a good one, more than likely, like they always are. And I wanted to thank you all and just remind you before I let you go that, as always, life is too short to drive a boring car. So what do? We what do we drive? We drive we drive minis. I'll see you all in the next video.